Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screened, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, managing editor of the National Newsroom at Lee and co-host of the program with Bruce Miller, editor at the Sioux City Journal and a longtime entertainment reporter. Bruce, how you doing? It's like warm out. I want to get out and get a little exercise in. Any sports on the top of your mind that I could try?
You did not mention that I am a longtime tennis player.
Longtime tennis player.
A longtime really bad tennis player. I'm so bad at it. I mean, it's like I can't even claim that it's my sport.
Oh,
no. I do follow it on TV, and I do play every week. I played every week for at least 30 years, at least, and haven't improved one bit. I'm just not dedicated enough or something.
Maybe not. My favorite, one of my favorite movies of all time when it comes to sports movies, but not sports, because whenever you talk like sports movies, it's always football or baseball or bat. It's Kingpin, the bowling movie with Bill Murray.
Yes.
And so
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson. Yep. That's always been a fun one to watch. But we're talking tennis because Zendaya is back, and she's not a Disney, like PG.
No, this is over.
Actor
Those
anymore.
Are done, and this I must tell you that it's like me swearing on the court. You must be warned in advance that there are things that maybe you shouldn't listen or hear or see.
Right.
She plays a budding tennis star, and then she gets a knee injury, and that just kind of kills her career. But this movie, Challengers moves like a game where it's back and forth, and it goes 13 years, and then it flashes forward to the whatever the 13 extra years are, then back 13, then so it's it almost is too much in terms of its back and forth. But she is friendly with two guys who were doubles partners in their youth. They won a doubles tournament together. They're roommates. They're everything, right? Well, then they both encourage her to come and visit them in their room. You think, what is this going to be? Is this something that I didn't realize that they were doing? It's, is this California doubles or what is this? So then you realize that she marries one of them and the other one is just kind of on the outs. One of them is a 6-time Grand Slam winner. The other one is struggling to just try and pull it together. And it brings them all together in it's a Challenger Series tournament where the big pro guy has never won the U.S. Open, so he wants to kind of polish up his skills. And then the scruffy one that doesn't seem to get out of his car is doing it just to see if he can make some money because he has to pay for a hotel room. So they meet again, and then you get to see how that relationship twists and turns. Yeah, it's dirty in parts. And it has Mike Feist, who was in Dear Evan Hansen and also in the film version of West Side Story, and then Josh O'Connor, who was in The Crown. And they do a good job of playing different ages. I mean, you can see a change in them. You see them younger, you see them older. They do a fine job with that. The tennis is all over the map. I don't think any of them are tennis players. Not that I am a judge, but you can see where they CGI balls in to make it look like they were hitting. Some of I asked everybody about Josh O'Connor's serve because I've never seen a serve like this before on anybody. And I thought, must be some pro that they've been able to tie it to. But yeah, who knows? Who knows what's up with that? But I was fascinated by the film. I don't think it's the greatest tennis film ever made, but I do think it was interesting. And it was fun to see it's a very 80s, 90s kind of film. I almost saw that Diana Ross could have played the role back in the day.
Okay.
She would have been the one playing the tennis star.
Okay.
But Zendaya does a great job. She's very chameleonic in terms of meeting the needs of either one. And the guys are good too. I think you're going to be surprised at how much those two are the next big stars, the two guys. And you'll see them in a lot of films. It's like Paul Mescal last year was a big kind of, we've discovered him. And now he's in a lot of things. And so They find these ones, put them in these things. Here they are. So this was the film that started them off. And I have friends who have seen it now 3 times. So they see something there more than I do. But I enjoyed it, but it's not the greatest. In fact, I think King Richard, if you remember that from a couple of years ago with Will Smith playing the father of the Williams sisters, is a much better film in terms of what that behind the scenes is all about. I don't know that they've really captured what that world is or what it takes. I don't know that you see the sacrifice in a lot of these films.
Yeah. I know to me and this is coming from a sports fan perspective, I always find it hard to do sports stories as movies, especially when it comes to the game action. Like I've always found, even when you get the most athletic of actors, it just doesn't quite feel right. Like, I always remember watching like Tim Robbins pitch in Bull Durham. It doesn't look like he's a pitcher. Right. And Kevin Costner swinging the bat in Bull Durham, it just seems awkward in some cases. Like you know that with certain athletes or certain actors, they can hold their own. They're certainly athletic and they're certainly performing well, but it also feels a little unnatural when you're looking at them sometimes. I mean, the only actor I could think of that, you could pretty much put him into it and I would believe it, would be like Kurt Russell. I mean, the guy actually played minor league baseball. So, if I would assume, obviously he's a bit old now, but, if he were to have done, that big, like, I don't think he ever did a baseball movie, but if he did, I would believe it because he's, he's got that background. But so what you're saying with, it looks kind of awkward with some of the balls and the CGI, it's probably because they're not tennis players and they've got to make it look as tennis-y as possible. So
yeah, when you look at some of those ones, they're always in a make or break situation. These films are all about it's win or we're just going to lose big time. And I think they never really show what is game 47 like? It's not that kind of mediocre moment.
Right.
But this is an interesting one. It's a little more romance than the action sports film. Yeah. But you get a chance to see 3 young actors at a pretty good clip for them. And I think Zendaya can do nothing wrong at this point. Whatever she chooses next, she has 3 misses because she can really blow a lot. She's got so much goodwill built up in the bank.
Yeah, it's amazing. She's got, what was it? Casey Undercover was her kids show that she did for Disney. My kids used to watch it. And she's gone, she went to Euphoria, and Euphoria, that's a dirty place to go after. Yeah, that is quite the leap. And then, but she's done the Dune movies. Now she has this. She's branched out incredibly, and it's very obvious that she's going to be able to do whatever she wants to do in the foreseeable future.
She reminded me in this of Halle Berry. And I don't know why. There was just something there. And I thought, she could have the career that Halle Berry kind of squandered because some of her choices were real dogs. And if I ever see Zendaya show up as an operator at a 911 call center, I'm calling her out because Halle shouldn't have done that when she had the opportunity. I think she was just ticking off the money as the time went by. But in this one, I think Zendaya, she's bought a little more time. I think this is a chance for her to move on to something more. And we haven't seen a comedy out of her yet.
Right.
Not comedy. I knew her back in those Disney days, and I interviewed her back then, and she was the sweetest person. So I hope she hasn't changed at all. She gets it, and I don't think she's taken by the, oh, God, I get to be the spokesmodel for Louis Vuitton or whatever premium thing there is out there.
There was a time when sunlight turned the earth into a gallery, when elegant estates welcomed works of art that drew us closer and closer together. It was a captivating time. It was spring, this spring at Biltmore. Plan your visit or overnight stay so you can enjoy the marvelous works of Chihuly while every corner of Biltmore blooms. Reserve now to get spring savings at Biltmore.com.
Interesting. Okay, so now we've solved the idea that you're not going to be a tennis fan.
That's correct.
And okay, good. Would you go into outer space?
Yes, I would.
Would you really? I would not.
If given the opportunity. Now I know there's these, the the Virgin Galactic and the other ones where they just kind of spit you up and it's like 10 minutes. I don't know if I'd do that, but yeah, if we got you a point where you could safely go into space and maybe, spend a few days or a few hours, that'd be a blast.
Would you? See, I have no desire to do that whatsoever. I would like to be weightless. I would like to see what that's like. But to be confined in this stupid thing with these other people who are doing experiments and seem very humorless, no. I don't want to be stuck there for how long. And then you think, oh my God, we're going to eat this crap again? And then, no. Well, it's a documentary called Space, the Longest Goodbye. The one thing they do not consider is the emotional impact this has on you as an astronaut. Are you missing the people down home? Are you somehow a different person in space than you are on the ground? Is it career first before everything? How do you weigh that? It's a fascinating documentary. It was at Sundance and it did really well. It got a lot of attention and now it's going to be on both streaming on Apple and also on PBS. So you'll get a chance to see it. But I got a chance to talk to one of the participants who talked about her family's relationship with this. Cady Coleman, she's an astronaut, retired, and her son, Jamey, who was 10 when she was in space. And they prepared him really well for all of this, but there was still that disconnect. And you'll hear when they talk about what this was all about and what kind of things they did. They knew that mom was doing an important job. They just didn't realize that somehow mom is not there for me when I need her. And he acts out. When you see it in the film, he is kind of a little, well, I guess I can't say that word, but he's trouble to his grandmother. And mom has to discipline him from the space station. And she's not mincing words with this. But it was a fascinating discovery. Well, now, move the clock ahead. And he's in his 20s. He's graduated from American University. He has no desire to become an astronaut, but like you, he would like to go into space. Jamey Simpson is his name. His dad is a glass blower, a really renowned glass artist. And mom is still doing things with the space program. And the two of them were able to talk about their experiences during that time when she was in space and he was on the ground. Jamey Simpson and Cady Coleman. What did you say, though, when she said, I'm going to be gone for a little bit? Or did you really calculate what this was going to be?
Well, when you're a kid, the way that you understand time is so much different than how you understand time as an adult. And I can very vividly remember my mom explaining to me, not when you're in first grade, not when you're in second grade, not when you're in third grade, but when you're in fourth grade, I'm going to the space station. And so to be able to quantify the time in terms of the school year was really helpful, and it helped me prepare in a lot of ways for her departure. But at the same time, I had been sort of preparing for that moment for a really long time. She was training in Japan or Russia for months at a time. And so by the time that she went off to the space station, it was a normal thing, at least, to be gone for so long.
How long did it take before you said, I want her back now. It's time to come back?
Immediately, I'd say. No, I mean, I think that when I reflect back on that time, it's crazy to think that it went away so fast. It didn't feel like a long time that she was gone, even though it definitely was. I mean, half a year is a profound length of time. But at the same time, I feel like we were really well connected the entire time. And I think that's a big reason that we both got through that point in time, just because we were able to talk to one another all the time. Because if we weren't able to communicate, I think it would have been much more difficult.
Well, we see where you're kind of a little jerk at some point in this.
You're on my side about this.
Right. And I mean, did you feel like I can get away with more things because she's not right here to discipline me?
It was more so the fact that ever since I was a little kid, it's been instilled in me that what my mom is doing on the space station is incredibly important, and that the work that she's doing up there is solving some of the world's greatest problems down here on Earth. And so for me to get in the way of that just wasn't in the equation. It wasn't something that I could be frustrated about because, my mom's in space, but she can't come to my band recital. Like, that's frustrating, right? I would never do that because I understood the importance of her work. But at the same time, when my mom was up on the space station, sometimes I just want my mom, and, I'm 10 in that little clip, and sometimes you're just a little kid, and that frustration and anger, I didn't want to take that out on my mom, but instead it's sort of manifested in the people around me, my grandma specifically. And, it's embarrassing, and you can't see me in that clip, but I'm in tears because you see the look that she gives me, and I think every kid understands what that look feels like, and it's intense, and it's scary, and you feel embarrassed and sad, and, to take away from what she's doing up there, I think was really embarrassing, but also to be disciplined from the space station, I think it's pretty funny.
What was it like when you got back together then? When she actually was, in hugging distance?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, something you don't really think about is how amazing a hug from your mom is. And so to be able to have her within reaching distance was really amazing. And when she was back home, I mean, it was just amazing because we spent probably 2 weeks after she landed in crew quarters. So I had a lot of Lego sets to build. We had all of our meals laid out, and we could go to the gym and run around, and we were on the Space Center. So
ride bikes.
And we'd ride bikes and go dumpster diving and find like lunar parts in a basement. So I was like, what? Like, that's crazy. So it was super fun. It was amazing when she came on.
Did it make you want to be an astronaut?
Honestly, it's always been something that my mom has done. It's not something that I don't want to become an astronaut. At the same time, I think it would be really cool to go to space. But something that I learned from my mom in a lot of ways was how to tell a story and the importance of telling a story. And so in that way, I think I've picked up a lot. And then in my professional life, I'm a photographer. And in many respects, I think that's a way for me to bridge my two worlds together.
It was fascinating watching this and thinking, is this a barrier to people going into space where they say, well, if you've got somebody that you're really close to back on Earth, should you go? Do you need to be somebody who has like nobody and it's just easier to deal with this kind of stuff? Did you see that at all? Did you say, well, they're just going to wash me out because I have a family?
I didn't think that. I mean, it's very human to be torn, whether it's, a son or daughter or an elderly parent that might not be there when you get home, or just somebody that it's just really torn. If you get to do what you want and not get to be with the person you want to be with, you don't actually have to go to space to have conflict over that. You can have a job that's really demanding where you miss occasions or are gone a lot, or all those kinds of.
Did you lose anybody during that time?
I did not, but actually our crew did. My crewmate Paolo lost his mom unexpectedly to cancer, and Scott Kelly was up there when his brother Mark's wife Gabby was hurt.
Okay.
And so we went through some interesting times with that.
Can you see where that would be? I mean, to me, it looks like I'm good. If I can talk to you on the screen, I'm good. I don't need to have you there with me. But I can see where is that distance enough of a distance that you say, yeah, it is. There is a problem with this.
Well, I guess I don't see it as a problem. And I think it's interesting that this is what the movie is about. Really, is that, for me, I would say goodbye at the curb and try not to cry at the curb at the airport, right? I'm thinking that was not good for anybody. I think a little more crying at the curb might have been good. Because so that, this is like really hard for me. But then, get on a plane, and I try not to watch those movies where the kids or the parents die on the movies, because otherwise I'm like in tears next to a stranger, right? And I think that those things actually bring out what you manage to kind of keep at bay. And we made a real conscious decision, like, is it okay for me to go to space? Asking myself really, and my husband, and leave Jamey, leave our family, to do something that clearly I'm going to sort of get more out of than everybody else, and I'm going to be able to say I'm accomplishing this kind of mission. And we decided this was really who Jamie's mom was, and that I should go. But it doesn't mean that it's not really hard. And it was interesting, I think, for Ito he asked me questions no one had asked me, and he asked Jamie questions. And it was about, because when the scene in the movie where he's frustrated, how can you not, it's just, he's 10. How can you not express, I just wish things were different, and I've been here with my grandma, and she makes these things I don't like, and she doesn't get this. And she's a really wonderful grandma, and she's passed away, but she's really taught him how to play ice hockey at the age of 80-something. Okay? I'm just saying, she's a great grandma. Anyway, so I just think these things are hard, and yet they have to be accepted that they exist, and that's what this film.
Yeah, it's amazing, because I don't think about those things. When you're seeing somebody go up, you think what a thrill. We're all excited for the person who's going up in space and getting to do all these things. We don't realize there is a cost to all of this. When did he first leave you?
We commuted as a family. My husband and I for 26 years. And Jamie went back and forth between 2 homes, 2 daycares, 2 whatever, and a lot of Lego in both places, until he was in 3rd grade. So we had a lot of goodbyes, and I felt like, he knew his mom came back. There's a really adorable picture of Jamie hugging the TV, because I was working at Mission Control and it was on TV, and he's hugging the TV.
Yeah, I think that we were always kind of traveling around, and I would commute between Houston, Texas, and Massachusetts on every few weeks I would go back. So 2 groups of friends, 2 baseball teams, 2 schools. And so we were always sort of in transition in a way, but I think it's made us very adaptable and very resilient in that way to be able to thrive in any environment that we're in.
So often you hear about parents who, when they take their kids to college, that's usually the time that it's just a kill for the parents, because the kid is leaving there. It's a stage of that. Did you have that kind of I have pulled away from you period in later life?
No, I think, despite, saying goodbye on the launch pad and saying goodbye since I was a kid, saying goodbye at the college elevators on the 4th floor of Letts Hall at American University, that's still ingrained in my memory. That's still a big step, right? That's going off to college, the next chapter of my life. And I think when I was a little kid, I started to sort of not talk about my parents as much, not because I was ashamed or something like that, but it was because your mom being an astronaut and your dad being a world famous glassblower, it sort of overshadows who you are. And so I would say hey, my name's Jamie, my mom's an astronaut. And people were like, wow, that's so cool. And I would get a good reaction. It was very cool. But then a month later, I would see those people again. They're like, oh, hey, I don't remember your name, but your mom's an astronaut. And that
was your identity.
Yeah. And I didn't want to be defined by that. And so I just wouldn't really talk about it right out of the gate with a lot of my friends. And once I got to know people, of course, I sort of read them in that way. But I think later in life, I sort of distanced myself in that way just because I wanted to get out from that shadow. But now that we're making this film and sharing our story all together, I think it's really special, and I think we all feel very lucky to be able to share our story with so many people and to tell it in a really beautiful way, thanks to Ito.
Dad's a glass blower?
He is.
How do you 2 get together? This is like...
A wrong number.
Was that it?
Pretty much.
Because talk about right brain, left brain.
Ironically, he makes space-inspired glass art that he made a dozen years before we ever met. But he was a legendary glass artist in the area where I went to grad school.
What do you think your experience could teach others?
I think that my experience with my mom, I think for a long time we were sort of training together for this mission, and that there's at some point some families have to make really big sacrifices, and that if the whole family can get on board with that in one way or another and be able to accept the fact that, a family member is going to be gone for a long time, but at the end of the day, the work that they're doing is incredibly important and will benefit a huge number of people. And so to be able to collectively understand that, I think would be really helpful for people.
Peggy Whitson, I don't know if you know Peggy.
Yes. Are you Iowa?
I'm from Iowa, yes.
Okay. Of course I know Peggy. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Peggy was the chief of the office. I mean, Peggy is.
She's there forever, right? But she said that whenever she would have relatives who would, wonder about her, she said, go outside, look up in the sky and wave at me, and I'll wave at you from the space station. Did you do that with him? Did you say? Absolutely. And could you see?
Yeah. So often Cady would call on a satellite phone from the space station, and I would be, my dad and I would be just finishing up dinner, and we had a landline at the time. And so she would call, and we would run outside with the cord still attached to the porch, and we would be talking to her on the phone, and we could see her arcing across the sky. And it's incredible to think that little blip of light is
there's mom,
is somebody that you love. And that was how I said goodnight to my mom.
Ah, how cool.
All right, Bruce, thanks for that interview. Might be one I have to check out. I always enjoy a good space documentary. I was actually watching something. It was one of these weird YouTube videos that I went down on the rabbit hole, but it almost sounded like this concept, but it was more to the extreme where if we want to send humans to like this distant planet that's however many light years away, it would be a 100-year journey. So then it's not just, you're leaving Earth, but that first group of people that's on the spaceship to begin with, they're never going to see the end destination. Their goal is just to get the thing going and then start reproducing. So then like 2 generations down from you, they're going to be there with their kids.
Yeah, this is in preparation going to Mars, because Mars would take 3 years to get there. At least this is what they're saying. And you would be away from people, and a lot could happen.
Right.
Your relatives could die, whatever. So it would be a different kind of a situation.
Yeah.
And just going to the moon.
Did they talk at all about, even the possibility of never coming back? Because that's one thing that I've heard is that, if you're signing up for that Mars trip, you need to do so thinking like you may go to Mars and just stay there because there may be no way to get you home.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want to be a burden here on Earth. You really want to be a burden on Mars.
You could be a really great tennis player though on Mars with that gravity.
It would work. It would work. But yeah, I'm fascinated by this, but it is not something that fascinates me enough to want to do it. If I had $1 billion or whatever to pay off Elon Musk to take me up, I ain't doing it.
All right, so we're going to wrap up here, but I want to know, who are we talking about next?
Well, there's a doctor who could be in the future, but I don't want to say who just yet. So we'll have to keep you guessing until we're ready for next week's.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, on that cryptic message, which presumably all of you can figure out, we'll be back again with another episode of Streamed and Screened.
There was a time when sunlight turned the earth into a gallery, when elegant estates welcomed works of art that drew us closer and closer together. It was a captivating time. It was spring, this spring at Biltmore. Plan your visit or overnight stay so you can enjoy the marvelous works of Chihuly while every corner of Biltmore blooms. Reserve now to get spring savings at Biltmore.com.